The Wally Show podcast is our daily radio show heard live through the Way FM app each morning and hosted by Wally, Gavin, and me, Betty Rock. For more fun, be sure to connect with us at wayfm.com/Wally.
The Wally Show podcast is brought to you by Colorado Christian University Online, where you can earn a degree online just like Betty Rock. You can learn more at ccu.edu/Wally. Things you didn't know you needed to know today. It's News-ish with Betty.
We're taught to believe that cheating won't get you far in life, and that may be true in some degree, but I found a list of real-life lessons being labeled cheat codes that typically you don't learn until later in life, but if you learn them sooner rather than later, it may help you get by easier in the years to come.
I'm glad you're not advocating actual cheating.
No, not
as a
actual
former
cheating.
college student.
Yeah, no, I'm not, no. So the first one is confidence. Confidence can get you super far even if it's an act. So this is helpful for young kids. I mean, any age really, but if there's something that you want to do, but you're like, oh, everybody knows I'm faking it. No, they really don't. Just go in with confidence and just
That
let
was
them
the
have
thing
it.
I learned about high school years later. It was like the kids that were like super popular or the kids that they seemed like they had it all together were the ones that were confident. All the other kids, myself included, were like just floundering, trying to figure it all out. But you're like, what is it with that guy? He had confidence. And if I had anything to tell kids now, I'd be like, be confident. Not arrogant, but be confident.
Yes,
and
there's a big difference.
Absolutely. You will navigate life a little better probably.
The second one is if you want to change the subject in a conversation, just discreetly drop something. You do it make it look like an accident.
Yeah.
It'll break the train of thought of the other person and allow you to restart the conversation.
That's a really good idea. It's better than my thought. When I heard you kind of start into that, I'm like, okay, if you got coffee, pour it on someone. And then like you're drinking, like you got to throw it in their face. Be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I spilled my hot coffee all over you.
It's a bad idea.
It definitely is going to change the conversation.
Yeah, just drop your napkin or
better
maybe a
idea.
fork or a knife. Yeah.
Better call.
And then finally, admit your mistakes quickly and apologize because people will trust you more and move on quicker.
Man, I'm telling you, Mark Hall had it right. Years ago, I was talking to him about, Christians and how we are looked at in the world. And he said, the world doesn't hate Christians because they mess up. They hate Christians because they mess up and pretend they don't. And I'm like, that is so astute because we try to make it look like we have it all together. And we can't ever let our bad side or our mistakes show.
Our failings.
Yeah, exactly. Show. And you're right. I think people, for the most part, if you are honestly and sincerely apologetic about your mistake and you own it, that carries weight with people, especially in work too. If you mess up on a project or something and it's you, own it. I mean, and if you're flogging yourself, like they can't pile on.
Right.
So that's
right. Just show it the respect that it deserves. Like the word quickly, it is important, but don't like quickly say, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. Okay. Anyway, you need to be respectful.
Yeah, you need to really lay it on thick. Like, I am the worst human being on the face of the planet.
No.
Why have I done this?
So what we have learned also is a cheat code. Don't ever listen to Wally about life lessons.
When I needed rescue, Jesus, you came through.
Sometimes we all need to be rescued, and sometimes it's spiritual, and other times it's physical, and you need professionals. Hey, it's the Wally Show on Uplifting Way FM, and that was the case for this 16-year-old girl. She had been at the beach, and they had dug this big, sand hole. And they always tell you, don't dig these crazy holes in the sand because they will collapse on you. And that's exactly what happened to this girl. So it collapses on her, buries her like up to her neck. And then like a movie, she's close to the water line and high tide is coming.
Oh, boy.
No.
So like people are digging, so they call in like professionals to come and dig. And they got her out and she was safe, which is great.
Thank goodness, because there are some people crazy if they've lost their lives due to that.
Yeah, in sand holes at a beach, something that was meant for a day of fun turns into a full-blown rescue. And I am curious about this because, this girl found herself in this situation and wasn't expecting it. Have you ever had to be professionally rescued before? Maybe you were hiking and had to be rescued. Maybe you were, in an accident or something, had to be cut out of your car. I don't know, but just you had to be professionally rescued. When I was a kid, I went canoeing and I didn't come back when I was supposed to come back. And it was late. It was dark. And my dad called the police to come find me because he thought we had drowned. And as we came around this corner, we had seen a helicopter up in the sky. And we're like, oh, that's weird. And they got the searchlight on, and we're just paddling. And all of a sudden, we're like, wait a minute. And the searchlight starts to come closer and closer. And then it's just beaming over us. Like, oh my gosh, my dad called in a sheriff's helicopter to rescue us. He was one part mad and one part thankful when I showed up, and it flopped back and forth really quickly between each.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure. I'm a good kid, so I never had to get my parents to call first responders on me. But I know it's not even just for kids.
Yeah.
It's for adults. You know, sometimes you find yourself in a situation where you're like, we better call the first responders.
Got
the
your head
911.
stuck in a gate. Like, that could happen.
If it has happened, I want to hear that story.
Yeah, exactly. The odder, the better, actually. The more embarrassing, the better. We love it. All right, so 855-33-WAY-FM. That's 855-33-WAY-FM. What was that time you had to be professionally rescued? We'd love to hear your story now. Liz, have you ever had to be rescued by a professional?
Yes, sir. Unfortunately, this is not a funny story, but...
Thank you for setting the tone on this so I don't start making jokes. I appreciate you, Liz. You obviously know the show.
Well, I started listening to you last week.
Oh, no way. Well, welcome.
Sorry, I'm getting all teary-eyed.
What happened?
Well, just to let you guys know, 7 years ago on July the 9th, we were actually, me and 3 out of my 4 kids and my husband were involved in a car accident. Unfortunately, my husband was the only one who didn't survive, but we rode over 10 times before our car stopped. And when a police officer came and rendered aid, and some nurses were there too, and unfortunately, they had to use the jaws of life to get my kids out and me. But I'm still thankful, very thankful for God to give us another chance at life.
It's interesting to hear you say, I'm very thankful. And this is the thing that I think a lot of people would have a hard time understanding, that maybe don't have faith. So you lose your husband, yet you can still be thankful for what you do have and thankful that your kids were okay. Because I'm sure your husband would have rather him pass away than lose one of your kids, you know, because that's a parent's heart, you know. But to be able to still say you're thankful when other people might look at this and go, well, how can you thank God for, you know, losing your husband? You know, it's all a matter of perspective.
Like I said, I just started listening to your show last week because I got tired of the secular music.
Yeah.
And I just want to, you know, get my life right, get my family right.
Well, I love that you are listening now, and I hope that we'll make you laugh on some days, too, that are hard for you, because you're going to have your hard days still, obviously.
Yes,
but the music will be there to encourage you in your faith and help keep you strong for your kids and for yourself while, you know, you guys are navigating this as a family. And we love having you on, so thank you.
Thank you, you guys.
Ron, have you ever had to be rescued by a professional?
I did. When I was 13, I went camping with the Royal Rangers with our church, and they had taken us to the main campground, and there was supposed to be like a spiritual quest where you pray and get closer to God, and they took us to another campsite. They said in the morning, just come back to the main campsite and we'll regroup. Well, I didn't know where the main campsite was, but I knew a creek went by it. I saw the creek, and I followed the creek, and after about 5 miles, I realized I was lost in the mountains.
Were you by yourself?
So,
there was no one else with you?
I was by myself, and I knew God was with me because at one point I was trying to climb up this one side because I thought there was a road up there, and I was face to face with a snake. And I didn't get bit, but then I scrambled to this other ledge, which ended up being the spot where the helicopter picked me up. I wasn't scared, but after about a day and a half, they finally found me with the sheriff's helicopter.
Wait a minute, you were out there for a day and a half?
Yes, sir.
So then you had to just sleep at night, like just on the ground with no tent or anything?
I did. I slept on the ground with a rock as my pillow.
Nice. That is a baller story, by the way. Did you continue with a life of extreme, activities, or after that you're like, well, I'm just staying inside?
No, I don't camp so much anymore, but I did become a state trooper and helping other people that were in need. Yeah, I got paid to be a first responder.
Wow, well, it feels good to meet, one of my own here.
That's right. You're in the club, Wally.
Thank you very much. One of these days, I dream to get paid for this, too. Like, every time I rescue somebody, I ask for a tip.
Oh, my word.
Do you guys do that? You guys should have an iPad that after you rescue someone, you just turn it around and go, the screen's going to ask you a couple questions.
That's right. Carry the square for the card.
That's it, man. Well, Ron, thank you for what you do rescuing other people. I love that, and I appreciate your story, and thanks for listening.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
Betty's love of crime shows has me concerned because I think that she's not learning how to protect herself, but rather how to set me up for a crime.
Oh, I for sure am.
It's a Gone Girl situation is what I'm thinking.
I'm glad I've got you right where I want you.
Yeah, that's what I feel like. You need someone in your life that will set you up for success, not failure.
Yeah, and that's exactly how I felt with CCU. I mean, I felt intimidated considering going back to school as an adult after being out for so long, but I was set up for success with CCU from my first conversation all the way to graduation. Most classes are only 5 weeks long, which means you can earn your degree and still have time to do whatever you want.
Yeah, 5-week classes, that's even good for people with like ADHD. Like for me, I know I needed short classes so I could focus when I went back to school because Betty Rock and I kind of lived the same life.
Find out more about how you can pursue your passion and find your calling with Colorado Christian University at online.ccu.edu. Colorado Christian University is a nonprofit impact partner.
The regular news can be a steady stream of negativity,
Mischievous and deceitful, chicanerous and deplorable.
but we like to see the brighter side of things. It's News-ish on The Wally Show.
When you're in your 20s, you end up being in a bunch of your friends' weddings. Betty went through this, Gavin, myself. Then you get a big break from it, but then your kids start getting married and your friends' kids start getting married. And before you know it, you're back in that cycle. I have 4 weddings this year to
Oh my
go
goodness.
to. Yeah.
That's awful.
I know, right? Because I'm not a big wedding fan anyway.
Oh.
And there's one of a French friend, and my wife's like, "Oh, we're going," and I'm like, "Please, I beg." Last night, I said, "Please, can you not make me go to this one?" And she's like, "Okay, we'll talk about it when we get closer, but we're going." I mean, I know what that means. That was just to make me stop whining. So I'm up on wedding trends for sure because of all of these weddings, but. Here's one that I had not seen, and maybe you want to implement this or share it with someone. There was a bride who's not going to have a maid of honor, as is traditional.
Okay.
And so she's having instead all 5 of her friends be equal bridesmaids, which I think that's been done before, But here's the twist of this. She had each of them be the maid of blank, depending on their personalities.
Oh.
Yeah, I thought this was really cool. For example, her friend Rachel, she asked her to be her maid of loving kindness. Becky was her maid of joy. This is icky to me, but I have to get through it because I'm a guy. Like, I shouldn't be like, oh. Kirsten was her maid of passion. Crystal was her maid of courage. And Aaron was her maid of generosity.
This is so cool.
So, I'm like, okay, I get it. And so she said, I basically wrote them each a letter and said, this is the quality I see in you. And I shared different times and examples that I've seen this in their lives come through. And at the end, I asked them, would you be my maid of courage? Would you be my maid of generosity? And I want you to, the night before the wedding, talk to me about what that word means to you and how I can bring that into my marriage.
Oh,
Why
my
are you
goodness.
giggling, Betty Rock?
She just really loves words.
Yes.
She loves words
It's a
of
lot of-
affirmation.
It's a lot
Yes.
of work.
It feels like homework.
Would you not like this? Like,
No.
What would you
Really?
make? What would
I
you make
wouldn't.
Betty the maid of?
Oh.
If she was your maid of.
The obvious is made of hangry, but
Thank you.
yeah, like I don't know the ooh, boy, that's a tough one. What is her personality?
Kindness, gentleness.
On a day, some days, the maid of sarcasm.
Thank you.
The maid of tolerance.
Gee, thanks.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
amen to that on tolerance.
But I think that this might actually help you also whittle down who you do truly want in your wedding. Because sometimes you're like, well, I got to have Diana in. But like if Dina is, the maid of drama, like if you think about her like that, then you don't want to put her in there.
don't want her.
Yeah, so I thought this was actually kind of a cool thing that maybe you want to do or share it with somebody else that is getting married soon. There's a country singer named Thomas Rhett, Hey, it's the Wally Show on Uplifting Way FM. And like, he's had a couple songs that, as you look at his life from the outside, you're like, oh my goodness, like he's this family man, he's a believer, his wife's a believer. Like, wow, they have this great life in the public eye. He had this song, Life Changes.
Life changes as you wake up, ain't nothing the same, and life changes, you can't stop it.
And this song is kind of cool too, because they're talking about adopting this little girl from Uganda.
Remember the day I told my daddy and mama, you're gonna have a grandkid. From Uganda, that's right, we're adopting, and she is.
It's nice that he rhymed mama with Uganda. That's kind of like, I give him points for that. That was kind of cool. And so on the surface, you're like, man, their life is pretty great. Like how everything's going. Well, recently, Lauren Akins, his wife, did an I Am Second video. Like, oh, I love that. If you don't know what I Am Second videos is, it's people that are believers in media and public places, and they share their faith journey. And so she did that, and how they were in Uganda and they decided to adopt this little girl. And, he told his wife, yeah, I'm excited we can do this and we'll do it together. But then the big share of the adoption work fell on his wife, Lauren, as she had to go back, and forth from Uganda, and he had to go back on the road to provide for his family. But Lauren talked about what was actually happening to her family in her I Am Second film.
His life went on, and I felt like mine stopped, and I felt like we weren't doing it together anymore. And there's a lot of miscommunication. There was a lot of resentment I was holding on to, I think, even through the adoption and after. And I just hit a breaking point where I didn't like him and I resented him. I remember looking at him in the closet, and after we had just screamed at each other, I said, I hate you. I hate you. And I feel alone, and I feel lost, and I hate your career, and I hate the pressure that it puts on us, and I hate that we've brought two little girls in this. It was like I just dropped a bomb on him, and he's like, do you want me to quit? What do you want me to do? Tell me what to do, and I'll do it.
It's so hard because you have to get to what the root of that is, and for him as a guy, he's like, I'm trying to make a living and provide for our family. But women are like, I just want your time and I want you to be here. When you're here, be here, and we're not always good at that. And so you've got these two people in the same situation trying to navigate this. Now, fortunately, they went to a counselor and they got some perspective, and their marriage is stronger than ever, and they weathered that. But what I want to do is talk about resentment inside of a marriage. I want to have an honest conversation about this, because resentment is one of the things that can destroy a marriage so quickly, and it sneaks up on you, and it percolates down below the surface, and then it will explode, and it has the power and the potential to destroy your marriage. And so with that in mind, what was something that you resented about your spouse in your marriage? Because again, the reason we have these conversations, even though they're hard, is that you learning from it and what you did to get past it and how you overcame this is exactly what somebody might need to hear today that is stuck in it. And like Lauren there was like, I was mad and I didn't know how to process what was going on, and you might give them that insight. So if you've got something on this, we'd love to hear it. Like, what was that resentment you fostered in your marriage, and how did you work past it? 855-33-WAY-FM. That's the phone number. We love having you on the show. 855-33-WAY-FM. What was a time that you had some resentment in your marriage, and how did you get past it? What did you do to get through it? Because I think that people can benefit from these honest conversations like this. So what do you got?
Well, this is like really, really deep. My husband and I have always had problems, and it gets to where it's heartbreaking. And one morning he was just like, what's wrong? Like, he didn't have a clue, and I broke. And I just started crying, and because he was clueless, and we talked it out. And through communication and faith, it's like we were able to work through it. Communication is just so important. You can't hold it inside of yourself. You have to be able to communicate with your spouse. That is the most important thing in a marriage, and people just don't realize sometimes how a hard and difficult conversation can just get the ball rolling and fixing things.
Yeah, when you live with someone every day, people just assume, oh, well, you're just all around each other. You're talking. It's not a big deal. You work through things. But, man, that's not true. A lot of times you hold things for a while until it explodes. But once it does come to light, once you actually start having the really hard conversations, that's when things can change for your marriage. And it's not fun. Oh my gosh, it's not fun. I think setting some rules for it too, going in, and not doing it when you're in a charged situation and you're already heightened and angry, but going, look, we need to talk about this. Here's the deal. I'm going to say some things. I'm going to be honest with you, and I know it's going to hurt. I know it's going to hurt. But my intention isn't to hurt you. My intention is to help fix us. So I think you're dead on. Communication is a vital first step, and honest communication is a vital first step. Well, Cammie, I appreciate you starting this conversation off with us today. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Have a good day.
What was that thing, or is that thing, that causes resentment in your marriage, and how are you working through it? Because I think this is an important conversation.
My husband and I have been married for 35 years, and we got married very young. We had children very young, and I stayed home with the children. And now that I'm 53 and struggling to get ahead in my career, I find that my resentment is towards him that, you know, I didn't have more opportunities when I was younger. And when the devil jumps on your shoulder and starts whispering, he did this to you, he held you back, and you could have been this, and you could have been that, and you could have been here and there.
Sarah, is this something that you've spoken to your husband about?
Oh, yes.
Loudly?
Very loudly, yes. And again, 35 years.
Yeah.
But when we said our vows, I mean, we truly talked about it, that divorce would never be an option for us.
We did the same thing, and I think that's important. That's a good lesson for people that are getting married now, young. It's like, look, take divorce off the table, because if you always have that as a fallback plan, you'll use it at some point in time, or it will come up. Well, you know, I knew this was going to happen, and, you know, we should just get divorced. And you can't unsay some things. And so when that's never an option, then you are forced to work through other solutions to your problem versus taking the easy way out. And you're right about, like, the devil whispering in your ear, he held you back. That is a breeding ground for resentment. But you know what? You invested in the lives of your kids. You invested in your family. That is not wasted. Well, if nothing else, just use this as a moment to be encouraged about that decision, because you never go wrong investing in your kids and in your family. If more people did that, we would be in a much better place in our society. So I appreciate you being on the show with us today, Sarah, and sharing your story so openly and honestly. Thank you.
Thank you.
He's kind of smart.
Guys have underestimated me my entire life.
Sorry, read that wrong. He's kind and smart. It's News-ish with Gavin.
Anyone who has flown knows that little moment when you do sort of a little mental check to make sure everything in your carry-on or your suitcase as you're going through TSA isn't going to set off the alarm. Like, oh, did I pack my travel shampoo instead of the normal shampoo? And so for anyone, you're someone who's interested in ways to skirt around or, you know, flirt with the rules of TSA, is like, well, what does get through TSA and what is allowed on planes? I found a list of items that TSA does allow on planes.
Like stuff that would surprise you?
Surprising stuff. So I'll start with this, which maybe not super surprising, the first one, but it's relieving to me as a to-be dad. They do allow food or drinks for toddlers or babies. So if you are looking at like formula or stuff like that, then it is something that is allowed on.
Do you have to taste it? Like they should make you taste it.
That would be awful.
What if you just wanted a drink for yourself? You just put it in a Paw Patrol sippy cup.
That's a great idea.
How do they know?
Put it in a bottle. I could drink a Coke out of a bottle and not have any shame whatsoever.
Yeah, that's like for my baby. The next thing, and this is where we get into like the surprising stuff. Fresh eggs are allowed.
Okay,
I don't know why.
I could see that.
I don't know why you're bringing the fresh eggs on the plane.
And my question is, eggs from what?
Oh.
Fresh
They didn't
snake
clarify
eggs?
that.
No, that's...
But if it's an ostrich egg.
Yeah. I think they mean regular eggs, but like the fact that they've probably had to have that conversation because someone brought eggs and like Joe at TSA is like, Randy, come here a second.
Mm-hmm.
Are we allowed to have eggs? And the person's like, I don't see a problem with it. And Randy's like, I don't know. Let me get with Rick. Rick, come on. And then they got 8 TSA agents all trying to figure it out.
The next one was, again, wild. Live fish transported in water.
How is that possible?
So now you're allowed to, again, I can't bring my Dasani water bottle through. But
you can bring a
apparently I
fish.
could bring Nemo on in its tank and we're totally fine.
Well, have you seen the movie What About Bob?
Yes, where he has the fish around his neck in a jar.
Yeah. Maybe it's that.
Okay, so here's the workaround for bringing your water bottle with you. Fake plastic fish. shove it in your water bottle.
This is my tank.
And then you're like, hey, this is Nemo. Nemo, meet Rick. He's a nice TSA guy, and I'm getting my water through this way.
And then I will say this is interesting. You can also bring on, when it comes to liquid, you can bring on frozen liquids, but they have to be completely frozen and not like slushy to meet TSA's requirements.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. And why they have those different rules, I have no idea. Like, because somebody tried to do something nefarious at one point in time with one of
popsicle.
these. Yeah, seriously. And that's why they get like banned. Gummy bears like used to cause me nightmares.
Really?
Yeah. Because I carry a large quantity of them.
I know.
But the one TSA agent told me one time, she goes, yeah, we stopped you because of all the gummy bears. I'm like, oh, really? She's like, yeah, they look like C4.
Oh, my
like on our
goodness.
scanners, and like you would have enough gummy bears to bring down 10 planes.
Oh, my
So I'm like, okay, duly noted. So now I make sure I take those out every time.
You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall.
Every week we have Pastor Chad from the Prayer and Care team come in and share with us what's going on a little bit on the prayer wall. You know, because a lot of times people have similar situations and they're looking for guidance or help or hope through that. And you get to be an active participant if you go on there and you pray for people. You click a box that says, hey, I just prayed for this, and they'll get a notification, which is really, really cool. That's my favorite part of the prayer wall, actually. And if you want to check it out, just text the word pray to 91979. So what's some of the stuff that you're seeing now, Chad?
If you come to our prayer wall, a lot of times you see the health requests. People are having issues with their health, but this one really hit it because we think about the health aspect and we're praying for healing, of course, but this person leaned in with some of the other issues that go on when you have a health issue. So Shira said this: I have recently been diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer, but my disability will not start until November. Instead of this month as originally thought, my husband and I have low bills, but we're still short. We're praying for God's mighty hand in provision. My husband is also disabled and waiting on his disability to be approved.
Oh, wow. It's a lot going on.
Yeah, so you have stage 4 breast cancer, but beyond that, we forget, like, are we praying like for their bills to be met and all the financial issues that go on? Because I know for a fact, my dad having had leukemia in the past, like those prescriptions aren't free.
Yeah. I think I've taken it for granted in my life that my health has been really good and that, you know, God bless this ministry, we have health insurance.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you hit your deductible and then you're good, but that's not everybody's story. And it kills me that sometimes people, their entire life savings gets wiped out from a medical emergency. It's when you're like, what else can I do except pray for a miracle in some of these situations? And, you know, God shows up in some way. And that's a hard thing because it doesn't always show up in the form of, oh, good, my debt was just wiped out. But sometimes I think God shows up in a way that where you get peace in the midst of your debt not being wiped out. And God is still there in it. But it's not the big save like you're hoping for. And that's hard to reconcile sometimes.
We get focused in one direction and our prayers become quick. Oh, Lord, just heal Shira. But like, Lord, go before her. Lord, pave the path so that her financial needs are met, that she doesn't, in the midst of doing chemo or all the things she's going to do, that she doesn't have to worry about finances. And
that people in her life will rally around her and take care of the daily stuff that is annoying while you're in the fight of your life, quite honestly. And then that can take a burden off of you too. So there you go. That is one example of what's on the prayer wall that you can go pray for and post your own prayer requests as well. All you have to do is text the word pray to 91979 and we will send you a link. Gavin was just saying that he really hopes that his child is taller than him because they're about to have a baby. Hey, it's the Wally Show on Uplifting Way FM. And I don't think that there's any way that your child couldn't be taller than you.
Yeah, I'm a minuscule human being.
Yeah.
History says that, like, my dad's 6 foot, my brother's just over 6 foot.
Wow, it just kept dropping.
My mom, I guess I got all of my mom's genes.
That's crazy. Your wife, she's tall though, isn't she?
She's my height. So she'll, like you, she's my height, but she'll say she's taller than me, even though it's not true.
She carries herself taller.
Oh, easily. Everyone does.
Yeah. She seems tall to me. Not big, tall. Very different. Very different.
Good
Thank
job.
You. So we came up with a game because Gavin mentioned how he thinks he's the same height as me. We are totally different heights. I tower over him. I am a giant man.
Never mind.
And
There's no point.
We play this game called Smaller or Taller, where Betty Rock will find different celebrities and all you have to do is say if they are smaller or taller than Wally, okay? I am almost
very
as tall.
Demure.
No, I'm almost
5'6"
I'm
inches.
just
Platform
under.
wearing.
No, like Zach Williams, for example. I'm just a little shorter than him.
A foot
and
shorter.
He's the tallest man in Christian music, next to Luke from For King and Country, who I am just under his nose.
In what world?
You don't think so?
What are you standing on?
Really? I should stand next to him sometime. You'd see it. I think you guys think I'm smaller than I am. And
It's not the think we know.
And there's photographic evidence that I'm the same size as all of these men.
Chris towers over you.
No. So
Anyway.
I clock in. Well, for the sake of argument for this game, we'll put me at 5'6". It's not true, but we'll put me at 5'6". And then you'll just have to tell us if I am smaller or taller than the person that Betty Rock puts up. If you'd like to win a prize and be on the show with us right now and you want to play along, let's go. 855-33-WAY-FM. That's 855-33-WAY-FM. All right, it's time to play a little smaller or taller with you, Kelly, here on the Wally Show on Uplifting Way FM. Before we get started, Kelly, how tall are you?
I knew you were going to ask me. I'm 5'2".
You're 5'2". That's about the size of my daughter. That is at least 4 inches smaller than me. For the sake of argument for this game, I am 5'6". I think I'm closer to 6'4", but we'll play along with Betty's delusion here that I am 5'6". And so she's going to put up some different celebrities, and you just have to tell us if they are smaller or taller than a 5'6" Wally, okay?
Okay.
All right, we've got the first one, Kelly. His name is Steve Irwin. You know him as the guy that...
The crocodile hunter.
The crocodile hunter, yes. Sadly passed away at an early age. But do you think that he was taller or smaller than Wally?
Oh, crikey. I think he's taller than Wally.
Okay, now here's the deal. His shorts were tighter than all of my shorts.
Oh, my word.
He was a very, very unafraid man. He would jump on crocodiles, and he was stocky. I don't think he was big. I think he was smaller than me, but she's going with taller. So at 5'6", how much smaller or taller is Steve Irwin than me?
Steve Irwin was 6 inches taller than you, Wally. I'm sorry, I did the math wrong. 5 inches taller than you.
He does not seem that big. His son is tall, but he did not seem that big on camera to me. I always thought he was this tiny guy jumping crocodiles. Now it's not as impressive. All right, well, that's one right. You're on your way here, Kelly. What's number 2?
All right, Kelly. Haley Joel Osment. You know him as the little boy in Sixth Sense.
He sees dead people.
Yes.
But does he look up at them? Okay, let's think. Shorter than Wally.
He seems demure to me, Haley Joel Osment. He seems very frail. He could be broken easily.
You have to really watch what you say, Wally, because if this person is the same height as you, or maybe just a tad bit shorter, or even taller, it makes you look really bad.
Well, but you can be smaller or taller than me, but not be frail. I'm stocky. I'm big boned. I don't look like you could blow me over in the wind. And so you're gonna go with smaller with Haley Joel Osment. I agree with that. I think he is probably smaller than me. So
Haley Joel Osment is only 2 inches shorter.
Yeah, see?
Than Wally.
A lot of actors are shorter than you think. You see them on screen and they seem so big, but they are mostly smaller people. Like Tom Cruise is tiny. But he doesn't seem like it.
He's taller than
He
you.
is not. He is tiny.
Oh, my word.
The Rock, tiny.
Okay.
People don't believe that, but it's true. Well, you know what, Kelly? You got 2 out of 3 right. You don't even need the third one. You're a winner today.
Yay! Thank you.
I came here in a time machine that you invented. Great Scott! Now I need your help to get back in time.
Well, it is Friday, and that can mean one thing and one thing only. We are crammed in a time machine for Flashback Friday. Hey, it's the Wally Show on Uplifting Way FM. And today we have a new pilot in here with us who's taking us back in time musically. It's Brian. Brian, how are you today, good sir?
Wally, I'm doing all right. How are you guys?
Good. I think Betty Rock would like me to go back in time and not buy the shirt that I'm wearing today.
It is a choice. I'll put it that way.
We're going to have to make a stop by, an unexpected stop back about 3 days ago to Marshall's, and then we'll get back in time to your song as quickly as we can. So what song do you want to hear there, Brian?
The song I was wanting to hear actually is from Cochran & Co. So they released it in 2018. It's Church, Take Me Back. That song, I think, it hits home to me because every time I hear that song, it reminds me of how back in the day I fell out of going to church after I had moved out with my parents. When I was a teen, I kept close to God pretty much alongside him, and I went to church quite frequently. And the reason why I fell out is I was hanging around people that were putting negative influences in my life, and I had realized after a couple of years that God didn't have this in store for me anymore. And I decided to pack my stuff up. I moved to Nashville, Tennessee. I had met and we're actually married now, my fiance at the time, and her and her family helped me get back into church. They helped me get back into my relationship with the Lord. This song reminds me of home because our home is with the church.
Yeah, it's crazy how we can rabbit trail and get away from God when we start as simply as sleeping in on Sunday and not making that a priority in our life. And then you see that slow fade in other things in your life. So that's a great reminder, and it's a song that I'm not familiar with, so I'm excited about this. Church, Take Me Back, parentheses, by Cochran & Company, all the way back to 2018 for Brian here on Flashback Friday.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys.
There was a time that I swore I would never go back. I was blind to the truth, didn't know what I had. I was running, I was searching, but every place I turned for healing left me more broken than the last. Take me back to the place that feels like home.
Growing up in poverty has never been easy for children, but with the added challenges of the pandemic, conflict, and natural disasters, families around the world are facing an unprecedented food crisis. Unfortunately, those who are already hungry are now even more desperate. But by sponsoring a child through compassion, you can help provide life-sustaining essentials such as food and clean water. And with your compassionate support, that child can not only survive, but also flourish. You can find out how and choose a child to sponsor when you click on the compassion banner at wayfm.com.
Uplifting Way FM. If it's trending, streaming, or starring, Betty Rock's got it on The Rock Report.
It's been a little over 2 years since the world was blessed with the film Top Gun Maverick, the sequel to Tom Cruise's 1986 huge hit, Top Gun.
It has been 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched it 4 times. And really, honestly, I went to see it in the movie, and then I watched it online at home like a week later, and then since then it's come up, and I'm like, oh, I'll watch that. So I'm about 4 times in.
I've seen it 0 times.
And you're
with
not
zero regret.
No, you're not a better person because of it, because you've missed out on something culturally that is life-changing.
Meh. And while many,
that's why you have that attitude.
Yeah, for sure. And while many A-list actors on set like Tom Cruise and Glenn Powell would consider it a raving success, one lesser-known actor, Manny Jacinto, who plays the role of Fritz in the film, would say otherwise. In a recent interview, he claims that his character had lots of screen time and plenty of lines, but as production for the film continued, he started noticing his scenes and lines were getting cut. His reasoning? He stated, quote, Tom Cruise is writing stories for Tom Cruise.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's a bold statement for an upcoming actor to take on Tom Cruise like that.
Yeah.
And, yeah, of course he is. He's Tom Cruise. Like, I don't fault him for that at all.
Well,
maybe you weren't that great, sir.
Well, Manny went even further in stating very carefully and without putting direct blame on anyone that he believes his race could have caused something in this because he is Asian American.
Come on.
So, I don't no. That's all.
No.
That's all between Manny and Tom.
No, when you're telling a story, stuff gets cut out for timing, and like any movie, it gets edited, and you're trying to get it to the point where it needs to move, and it just flows. And maybe your stuff just didn't flow. Maybe you thought it was great, but it didn't work.
Well,
I mean, I know I've been cut out of films before. It hurts.
Okay, moving on. Speaking of
I can only imagine.
Speaking of Tom Cruise, the 62-year-old was seen pushing the limits with his stunts like he always does, dangling midair off the side of a biplane, filming a scene for Mission Impossible 8.
Oh, nice.
Hasn't he already done that?
Yeah, but it was a C-37 or something like that. This is different. It's a biplane.
It's so ridiculous that we're even on Mission Impossible 8.
No, it is not.
It's the same movie over and over. It's just that Tom Cruise keeps getting older and older and feeling insecure, so he has to prove himself by hanging off the side of a plane.
Here's what I will say to you. As soon as Hallmark changes up their one plot, then we can change up the plots of Mission Impossible. Until then, no.
Well, I will say
this is for women. Hallmark is that for guys? Mission Impossible.
Let me just say this. I found this pretty funny. So people that were there as spectators watching as it was being filmed, they did want to point out because they took pictures. There was a pilot in the plane, but he was dressed in full green from head to toe because later on they're going to digitally remove him. But they always try and make Tom look like he can do anything. He's the hero.
He's hanging from the side. The pilot won't be there. He's going to climb himself back in, and then he's gonna fly that plane.
He's an insecure little short man,
and he's gonna
who needs to prove himself.
He's so rich too.
I know, and you know what? If I had saved the world half as many times as Tom Cruise has,
he hasn't saved the world at all.
He has, Betty. In my head, he has. So, all right, that's gonna do it for your Rock Report. Thank you, Lady Rock. Going to work is one of those things we all have to do, but every once in a while, you got to call out for a weird reason. Hey, it's the Wally Show on Uplifting Way FM, and Gavin told me that he would have called out had this gone a little bit different a situation in his life.
Yeah, we had a skunk get into our yard, and it's 3:30 in the morning. I let my dogs out for a quick little bathroom break, and then one of them gets sprayed. And so the skunk sprayed them. We pop out, we wash the dog. I'm in maybe 30 minutes late on the day, but still in.
And you're still early before the show.
Exactly. So, but I had said that if I had been the one to step out into that space and had I been the one who had gotten sprayed by the skunk, I probably would have called out for the day.
Okay.
For my own sake, let's say, but also I don't, having smelled a skunk on a dog.
Yeah. In the studio.
Would you have wanted me to step into this room and smell all of that at 6 in the morning?
Let's ask Betty. Okay, so no. Okay, so knowing you would still have to do his job for him, that he's not here, because it puts more work on you.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. But I would expect him, while he's gone, to bathe himself at least 10 times in spaghetti sauce or something.
For my own sake, I would try and get it off as soon as possible. But it's hard to live. This, for a couple weeks now, I've had that smell in my home.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's hard to exist in that space. I'm trying not to sound like my life's terrible, but it's not easy.
I think I would have been like, are you kidding me? Like, you got sprayed to the skunk, go shower and get to work. Like, I think that's how I would have seen it.
Do you think that the shower makes it all better?
I don't know.
It doesn't. I'll tell you, it doesn't. I've showered my own home.
Okay. So what is that odd reason that you had to call out sick before? Okay. Not like a fake reason, but a legitimate odd reason that you had to call out sick. 855-33-WAY-FM. I'd love to hear yours. 855-33-WAY-FM. So that got us onto this conversation, Tanya, about weird reasons you've had to call out sick.
All right, you ready for this one?
Oh, yeah.
I used to live in Louisiana, and I was about to start a new job the next week. We were scheduled to go to Florida. Middle of the summer, late summer. And I get a call. I call up and I say, I can't come to work. I'm in Florida, and I'm snowed in.
What?
I was snowed in Florida. You ready? There was a freak snowstorm that hit Chicago, and my plane was supposed to change over in Chicago, so I couldn't get another flight out to get back to Louisiana in time to go to work.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, because I'm like, I lived in Florida, and we had snow there one time, and it was these tiny little flurries. We got so excited, and it was, I mean, it would melt before it would even hit the ground. So I love it.
Yeah.
So did they buy your excuse?
They did. Well, all they had to do was look on the weather and see that it was snowed in, and I told them what flight I was on, and I was working at a Christian bookstore, so, you know, if I had lied, that would have been it for me.
Oh, yeah. That's grounds for termination if you lie at a Christian place for sure.
Absolutely.
I hope my boss isn't listening, because I don't know that should apply to all Christian places.
Michelle said that her kid hid her keys in the litter box and it took all day to find them. Because, I mean, who would think about checking the litter box for keys?
My kid hid my keys in a toy box once, and fortunately it was on a weekend, so I didn't miss work. But, I mean, I looked all day long to find them, and then I finally, I was going nuts. She was like 3. I asked her, I said, Buggy, have you seen my keys? And she just looks at me and goes, oh, and runs right to the toy box and gets them out of the thing. I'm like, oh, I love being a dad.
And then Jamie said, my car got hit by a porta potty.
What?
It wasn't secured and fell off a pickup truck.
Oh, no.
Yep. She said, I got a good laugh from my boss and my insurance agent.
That is a bad day.
That is a bad day.
Yeah.
And who would believe that when someone calls and says, listen, my car got hit by a porta potty. I can't come in. You'd
That's
be like,
that thing that goes, it goes one of two ways. It's like so crazy that it just might be true, you know, or you're that crazy employee that says
yeah,
stuff.
it's just so crazy it might be false.
Yeah, exactly. So I always try to fact check all of Betty Rock's excuses because we don't know. We don't know.
Rightfully so. Well, that's the end, but it doesn't have to be. Check out our Aftercast. It's new stuff you didn't hear in the podcast. Be sure to rate us on iTunes as well as connect with us on social media. Just search Wally Show. And if you'd like to join our Facebook group made exclusively for you potties, the link is in the description of this podcast. Thanks to Colorado Christian University Online for supporting what we do.